my name is Pat Freeman. I'm with Globe Manufacturing Company, and I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Tim Gardner from 3M. Tim, you gave an interesting talk on conspicuity, and I actually made some notes, and I'd like you to kind of elaborate on a few of the things that you talked about.
Yep, I'd love to.
You talked about being seen as a factor of drive-by accidents, struck-by accidents.
Yep, struck-by hazards are the category of accidents that include things like being hit by a car, or being hit by a piece of apparatus or a large piece of equipment.
I see.
Struck-by can also include some other things like having objects fall on you. So if you see the statistics, you got to keep that in mind, that it may be reporting more things than just being hit by a car.
I see.
As traffic started to grow and accidents started to occur more frequently as the federal highway system came online in the 50s, people started to pay attention to these accidents, and they were interviewing the people that were involved with the accidents. And what they were finding was people were saying that they never saw the person that they hit. And soon after that, people started to do research where they were looking into the kinds of materials that you could use so that people would be more visible or more easy to see. And the kind of materials that they found were fluorescent materials for the daytime.
Right.
So a fluorescent red orange, or fluorescent lime yellow or lime green, and retroreflective materials for nighttime visibility.
Tell me about visual perception and about different parts of the brain.
Well, it's interesting, a lot of people don't know so much about the brain, but as new techniques have come online, people have studied the brain more using things like magnetic resonance imagery, and it turns out that we're such visual creatures, a large portion of our brain is used for processing visual information. And different parts of our brain have different functions based on what it is that we're looking for. We have a part of our brain that is devoted to recognizing shape. We have parts of our brain that are devoted to recognizing color. And as you try to search things that have a multitude of these different characteristics, what you need to do is engage different portions of your brain. They need to communicate, and the more complicated it is, the harder it is and the more work it is for your brain.
Interesting. One of the other things you talked about was you talked about certain things that you may take into account when you at 3M are designing products. Are there anything in particular you could share with us?
Right. When you think about how are you going to create high visibility in an ensemble, it turns out that the kind of high visibility that the fire service uses is pretty effective. What it does is it marks the torso, which is the biggest portion of the body, and it marks the limbs, and typically it'll also mark the head. And if you have these 5 areas marked, counting the 4 limbs and the torso, it creates a situation where it's very easy to recognize the human form. And it turns out that our brains are sort of pre-wired to recognize people. We're social creatures, and if you can have something that makes somebody look like a person, it tends to be more visible to you. So the idea that you have motion on the limbs is very powerful. It's more effective than if you confine it to just one area of the body. And you want the photometric properties of the material to be within the kinds of parameters that are defined in the standards. So a luminance value for your fluorescent material and an R sub A value for your retroreflective material. And you want to be above sort of a minimum performance threshold in order for those things to work. And there's been a lot of work done on determining the effectiveness of those minimal performance thresholds. And as long as people maintain the compliance to their gear and they maintain it in good repair, they can be confident that they're going to get good performance.
Wow, that's great. Thank you. Tim, if people wanted to get a hold of you, is there a website or a way they could contact you?
Yep, I can probably be best reached by my email, tjgardner@mmm.com.
Perfect. Tim, thank you so much.
Thank you,
It was a
Pat.
pleasure.